The film begins with the arrival of the biggest drug cartel boss at the airport in Colombia. He is then escorted by his heavily armed guards to his massive luxury palace. After changing his clothes, he goes to the swimming pool. While swimming, he notices a watch on the pool floor that looks like his, so he dives to pick it up. Suddenly, a man wearing a diving suit attacks him and starts choking him underwater. The boss tries to resist, but eventually gives in and dies. The killer then moves the body underwater, making it look like the boss is still swimming so the guards won't suspect anything. He quickly slips into a nearby room and changes his clothes. At that moment, a maid notices that the boss is not moving and starts screaming. The guards rush in, and the place quickly turns into chaos. Meanwhile, the killer leaves the room dressed as a servant and manages to exit the palace. Everyone assumes the boss died from a heart attack. The killer then changes his clothes again, grabs his bag, and runs toward a bridge where a passing oil tanker is moving below. He jumps from the bridge and grabs onto the ship to escape the area. Later, we see the killer arriving in America. We learn that his name is Arthur Bishop, and he works for a secret organization whose mission is to eliminate anyone who threatens global stability. He then takes a boat to his isolated house. Inside, he opens a room filled with photos and detailed information about the drug lord, including escape routes and plans. Bishop's special skill is that he makes every assassination look like an accident or a natural death. After that, he leaves his house and goes to a restaurant, where Harry, his boss, arrives in a wheelchair. Harry tells him that he has become like a machine, which is why he assigns him the most difficult missions. Bishop then asks about Steve's son, and Harry explains that the young man was fired after nearly beating a colleague to death, which left him very disappointed in him. The scene ends with Bishop leaving, carrying the money from the mission. A few days later, Bishop is assigned a new mission. The shocking part is that the target is Harry, his friend and boss. Bishop is stunned, and when he contacts the organization to confirm the information, he discovers that it is true. He is then sent to meet Dean Sanderson, the head of the organization. Bishop travels on a private plane and meets the president's bodyguards, who notice his ring. They recognize that he earned it after becoming a world boxing champion. Dean then explains the situation. Bishop is confused about why Harry must be killed. Dean tells him that some time ago, a team of 5 agents was sent to eliminate an important target in South Africa, but the target managed to escape and the 5 agents were killed. One of them was a man named Sebastian, whom Bishop knew. Dean explains that there must have been a spy who leaked the mission details. Only 2 people knew about the operation: Dean himself and Harry. They believe Harry may have betrayed them because he has grown old, has many debts, problems after his divorce, and trouble caused by his son. Dean then shows Bishop bank records proving that millions of dollars were transferred into Harry's account, including a payment just 2 weeks ago. Bishop asks if he can talk to Harry first, but Dean tells him that Harry must die, because as long as he is alive, he is a danger to the organization. He says Bishop was chosen because Harry trusts him, and this way Harry can die quietly. Dean gives him 48 hours to complete the mission, or someone else will be sent to do it. Bishop returns home feeling confused and conflicted. That night, Harry is at work when Bishop calls him and warns him that Dean's men are coming to kill him. Bishop tells him to take important items and bring a pair of scissors. Harry cuts the main power line, causing the electricity to go out on his floor and disabling the security cameras. Bishop guides him through an escape route until he reaches the garage, but Harry is shocked to find his car already open. Suddenly, Bishop appears. Harry realizes that Bishop wasn't helping him escape. He was setting a trap to kill him and make it look like a car theft murder. Harry pulls out his personal gun and fires 3 shots at the car to make the robbery story believable. Then he gives the gun to Bishop. Bishop asks him why he didn't try to kill him instead. Harry explains that if Bishop doesn't do it, the organization will send someone else until he is dead, so he prefers to die at Bishop's hands. Bishop finally shoots Harry in the heart. He is deeply saddened because he was forced to kill his friend. Later, we see Steve, Harry's son, at his father's funeral. Bishop comes to comfort him. Steve says he hasn't seen him in a long time and asks him for a ride home. At the house, Steve looks through his father's belongings and says that his father's bank account is empty, and the bank will seize the house because of debts. Steve swears that he will take revenge on whoever killed his father. He can't understand how someone could kill a man in a wheelchair. Bishop listens while feeling guilty, then quietly leaves. Afterward, Steve is alone. He starts drinking heavily and fires his gun around the house like a madman. Later that night, while sitting in his car, a stranger approaches him and suddenly pulls out a gun to steal the car. Steve quickly pushes him away and violently beats him, thinking he might be the one who killed his father. Steve pulls out his gun and is about to kill him when Bishop suddenly appears. He takes the gun from Steve and warns the thief not to speak about what happened before letting him go. Then Bishop warns Steve that he needs to be careful with his actions. The next day, Bishop is shopping at the market when Steve approaches him. Steve tells him he has been thinking about what happened the night before and says he wants to become like him. Bishop pretends not to understand, but Steve tells him he knows exactly what Bishop does for a living and that his father taught him everything about it. Bishop refuses and tells him to go home. Later, while Bishop is heading home, he stops to admire a boat he likes. A guard notices and tells him he knows Bishop wants to buy it and advises him to follow his heart. Bishop smiles and walks away. That night, Bishop looks at Harry's photo and feels deep regret. He decides to help Harry's son. He calls Steve and tells him to meet him the next day at a place he will send him. The next day, Steve meets Bishop at a shelter. Bishop buys him a small dog and warns him that revenge could easily get him killed. He tells him he must stop doing reckless things like what he did during the car robbery incident. Bishop asks him to treat the dog like a friend and take it every day to a specific cafe for 1 hour. After that, Bishop begins training him with different weapons, and Steve improves quickly. When the bank finally seizes Steve's house, Steve moves in with Bishop. The next day, Bishop is fixing his car and tells Steve that he has been repairing it for 2 years. Then he takes Steve with him to meet a man he had arranged a job with. When the man starts counting the money, Bishop suddenly attacks him and strangles him until he dies. Afterward, he stages the death to look like a suicide. Steve realizes that Bishop wanted him to witness how the job is done. When they return home, Bishop shows him a photo of the victim and the information he collected about him, explaining that the man was an arms dealer. Then Bishop gives Steve another file and tells him that the next target is a professional killer named Burke. Burke is known to sit every morning in a cafe for an hour. He loves small dogs and often pays attention to young people. That's why Burke has already noticed Steve during the days he spent sitting in the cafe. Soon, Burke approaches Steve and starts talking to him. When Burke asks if he lives nearby, Steve explains that he doesn't have a fixed home and moves from place to place. Burke tells him that he used to live the same way. Later, Bishop gives Steve a syringe filled with poison that can stop Burke's heart and make the death look natural. When Steve meets Burke at a bar afterward, he takes out the poison to put it in Burke's drink, but he hesitates. Remembering how Bishop performs his missions, he decides to imitate him instead. Burke then invites Steve to his house, and Steve agrees. At the house, they talk for a while. Suddenly, Steve grabs a belt and tries to strangle Burke. However, Burke is bigger and stronger, so a violent fight breaks out between them. Steve stabs Burke several times in the stomach, but Burke still fights back and knocks him to the ground. Burke grabs a screwdriver and is about to kill Steve, but Steve quickly takes an iron rod from the fireplace and strikes Burke repeatedly until he finally kills him. After that, Bishop leaves feeling upset because Steve didn't follow the plan they agreed on. A few days later, Bishop receives a package at the airport. When he opens it, he finds the payment for the mission, a mobile phone, and a file. When he calls the number on the phone, Dean, the head of the organization, answers. Dean is unhappy that Bishop involved Steve in the job, but Bishop tells him that this matter is his personal decision. Dean then asks him if Steve knows that Bishop is the one who killed his father, but Bishop doesn't respond. Dean reminds him that the next mission is very important and must be completed as soon as possible. After that, Bishop and Steve begin planning the new mission. Their target is Andrew Vaughn, the leader of a religious cult who has made millions through his religious centers and television programs. They decide to kill him by injecting him with a high dose of adrenaline so that his death appears natural. They prepare their equipment and rent the room directly below Andrew's hotel suite. Then they climb the outside wall across from his room and plant cameras to monitor everything. This allows them to watch all his movements and the entrances and exits of the room. Later, they reach the area where the water pipes run and send a small moving camera through the air vent, which reveals the entire room. Soon, Andrew's personal doctor enters and gives him a ketamine injection. Bishop is surprised and explains to Steve that ketamine cancels the effect of adrenaline, which means their plan will not work anymore. They will have to kill him directly instead. When the doctor leaves the room to make a phone call, Bishop and Steve break into the room through the mirror panel. Steve quickly places a tube in Andrew's mouth, cutting off his breathing so it looks like he died naturally. They leave the room quickly. Moments later, the doctor returns and is shocked to find Andrew's heartbeat has stopped. He calls the bodyguards but doesn't know what to do. Suddenly, one of the devices Bishop planted comes loose, and a small nut rolls out of the air vent. The guards become suspicious. One of them moves the mirror covering the vent to see what happened, but Steve immediately shoots him. A gunfight breaks out as the guards start shooting at them. Bishop quickly kills the first attacker and takes down the others one by one. Then he jumps from the room onto the rooftop. On the other side, Steve also manages to fight off the men attacking him, and kills them. He then joins Bishop, and they use a rope to descend from the top of the building. One of the guards starts shooting at them, but just as the rope reaches its end, Bishop pulls Steve into a nearby room. Finally, they escape the building through the crowded streets. Bishop tells Steve that each of them must leave on a different plane to avoid suspicion. While Bishop is at the airport, he suddenly sees someone he recognizes. The shocking truth is that it's Sebastian, one of the agents who was supposedly killed during the South Africa mission that Dean mentioned, the same mission that led to Harry's death. Bishop follows him and gets on the bus with him. He confronts Sebastian, wanting to know the truth about what really happened. Sebastian tells him that Dean was the one who ordered him to kill the rest of the team and then fake his own death and disappear. He also explains that Harry was strongly against the operation and was about to cause serious problems for Dean within the organization. A fierce fight breaks out between the two men. Bishop wants revenge, but Sebastian manages to grab him and tries to choke him. Bishop eventually breaks free and punches him violently. Then he pushes Sebastian out of the bus window. At that exact moment, a car speeding down the road hits Sebastian and kills him. Afterward, Bishop runs toward the dock but notices that the guard and the large boat are missing, which makes him suspicious. Suddenly, a car arrives carrying Dean's men, who have come to kill him after discovering the truth. They begin searching for him. But suddenly Bishop emerges from the water and shoots one of them in the leg with a hunting arrow. He takes the man's gun and quickly eliminates the rest. Then he discovers the guard's body floating dead in the water. Bishop takes one of their phones and calls Dean, telling him that he's coming to settle things between them. Then he calls Steve. At the same time, Steve realizes that Dean's men are already inside the house. While pretending to sit calmly on the couch, Bishop secretly tells him that there is a gun hidden under the pillow to his left and that the safety is off. Steve quickly grabs the gun and begins shooting the men one by one until he eliminates all of them. Later, Bishop returns to Steve and tells him to gather the equipment. Bishop then searches on the computer for information about the ring worn by Dean's bodyguard. While Steve is collecting the equipment, he accidentally knocks over a box. To his shock, he finds his father's personal gun, the one Harry always kept with him. Meanwhile, Bishop manages to identify the bodyguard and learn his name and identity. He grabs his bag and goes to Steve, who is now in shock after discovering the truth about who killed his father. On the way, Steve asks Bishop if he ever thinks about the people he killed before. Bishop replies that he doesn't. Then Steve asks him if he has ever killed someone he personally knew. Bishop looks surprised for a moment and answers, yes. After that, they go to the house of Dean's bodyguard, whose name is Finch. Steve shoots him in the leg. Then they bring his wife and daughter. Bishop grabs the daughter and turns on an electric blender, threatening Finch that he will put the girl's hand in it if he doesn't reveal Dean's location. Finch remains silent and refuses to talk. Bishop then pushes the girl's hand toward the running blender. Finch panics and finally shouts the address. But Bishop was only bluffing. He secretly placed a piece of meat in the blender instead of the girl's hand. Bishop then calls Dean and asks him about the price he received for ordering Harry's death. Dean calmly answers that it was $50 million. He even offers Bishop $10 million immediately if he forgets about everything. But Bishop tells him clearly that he will take revenge and that he is already close to him. Dean looks at his phone and realizes the call is coming from the meeting room inside his building. He quickly alerts his guards to get him out of there after realizing Bishop might be inside. However, Bishop had tricked him by manipulating the phone network to lure him outside. Bishop places a small camera in the garage, while Steve steals a bus just as Bishop had instructed him. When Dean and his security cars try to escape, Bishop watches them through the camera and quickly drives his car, crashing into one of the escort vehicles. Dean escapes in his car, but Bishop switches to a large truck. At the same time, Steve drives the bus straight toward them, creating a trap from both sides. Steve violently crashes into the security car and manages to jump out just before the bus explodes. As Dean tries to reverse and escape, Bishop crashes into his car with the truck. The vehicles flip over, and both Steve and Bishop empty their guns into Dean, finally killing him. Later, while driving away, Steve asks Bishop about their next plan. Bishop tells him they must disappear and start new lives with new identities and jobs. Soon, they stop at a gas station. Steve gets out to refuel the car, but suddenly he drops the fuel nozzle and gasoline begins spilling under the vehicle. Pretending to go buy something from the store, he secretly pulls out Harry's gun and fires a shot at the car. The vehicle explodes violently with Bishop still inside. After that, Steve goes to Bishop's house. He turns on the music player, then leaves and drives away in his parked car. Suddenly, he notices a piece of paper beside him. It is a message from Bishop that reads, "If you are reading this message, then you are already dead." Moments later, the car explodes violently with Steve inside it. At the same time, an electrical short caused by the music player triggers a massive explosion in Bishop's house as well. However, the final surprise is revealed at the gas station. Security cameras show a person stepping out of the car before the explosion. That person is Arthur Bishop. Don't forget, if you enjoyed the recap, leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel.